Hi there, friends. This is Emily Craig, and it is Wednesday, the 15th of January in 2020. And we're having a crisis in trust in our country, in the West, and in an English-speaking country, the United States. We're having a crisis in trust because, for one thing, there's a disconnect between how people get labeled and their actual behavior is different from the label they wear. Okay. The most obvious example, of course, is the Democratic Party today, who are going through a confabulated, false flag, ginned up, made up impeachment scenario that violates every rule and law in a democratic republic. They have rewritten rules. They've denied the president his due representation. They've denied the testimony to be made public. They've denied and covered up and talked in their high articulated affirmations about abstract terms, but there's still no crime for which this president is being summarily humiliated. Now, that's the most obvious example of people who wear a label, and the Democratic Party wears the label of believing in the principles and the rules of democracy, which they are violating hands down. Let's look at some other rules, some other populations. We have the same problem in the church. People cleave to the church for comfort, for the belief and the hope that when this life is over, they'll be saved and they'll have a future. However, the church has been tainted by the Babylonian doctrine that comes to us from Babylon and Sumer and the Anunnaki culture, that we are defined by our beliefs and our thoughts. Whereas here in third density physical, if you've read the holy laws of God, we are judged and defined by our behavior, not by what we think about behavior. All right. And so what we have in the whole Christian spectrum of sects and denominations are peoples who divide and include, exclude on the basis of their thoughts and ideas and doctrines and dogmas, and whether they have the Trinity and the creed and the this and the that correct, whether they know the exact nature of the Trinity, that kind of thing. But as the Orthodox and the Anabaptists and many Catholic factions will tell you, they're not paying attention. Most of Christianity, especially Reformation Protestant Christianity, is not paying attention to behavior. Now, when Jesus talked about behavior in Matthew chapter 5, verses 16 through 21, he said that Christians were not only responsible for their good thoughts, but they were responsible for the commandments of God. 16 through 21, Matthew chapter 5. So that every Christian ought to know what God considers to be lawful versus unlawful behavior. Now tell me, which church do you know of that teaches the whole law to its young people? Zero. None of them do. They're all teaching beliefs and catechism and doctrines and dogmas and this encyclo and that pronouncement, but the behavior of the people gets short shrift. Okay, so we're talking about politics and we're talking about the church. Now let's talk about medicine. In this country, there is a monopoly over healthcare. Let's call it healthcare. And the methods that healthcare utilizes are visits, tests, procedures, and prescriptions. And if you look at the ancient definition of sorcery, the allopathic school is a school based on sorcery because it compartmentalizes the human body into pieces and parts and acts on pieces and parts. And that's what sorcery and magic do. So the doctors and the nurses and the orderlies and the technicians, they all believe that they are working for the health of the people. However, the practices and methods they are using, have in use, that are very expensive in terms of cash, constitute sorcery and magic and not healing arts. What are the healing arts? The healing arts are nutrition and herbs and either acupuncture or kinesiology or chiropractic. There's all kinds of forms of hygiene, cleanliness, detoxification, exercise, oxygenation of cells. Healing is not about taking substances to force and control the body's processes artificially. So the people who call themselves health workers are working for a system that does not work for holistic health. Okay, let's look at another whole dimension. Let's look at law. Let's look at law. There are the laws of God. There are the laws in the Constitution. There are the laws that are statutes in treaties that affect all of the policies and procedures in government. There are administrative codes. There are corporate statutes. And the people who call themselves attorneys, lawyers, magistrates, and barristers make money. They make money by jumbling all of this together and by not being clear about what level of law any particular situation is dealing with. So if you're in a situation where you believe you need the help of a law professional, think again, because they don't do what their label says. They don't clarify. They don't make resolution of a problem or a conflict simpler. They're there to confound it and charge you. Okay. Let's look at academia. Now, how did things get this convoluted? They got convoluted because our progenitors, the race of humans who've had the most to do with the socialization and genetic development of humans, are the Anunnaki, whose planet Nibiru is now in our space, and that's the reason for the chemtrails, to hide it from us. Okay. The Anunnaki are a very old society. They've been around for 500,000 years. And they're kind of on a downslope right now. Okay. And so what I have found in today's latest media is that I'm seeing a confusion between the Anunnaki in Syria versus the Nephilim in Syria. I'm seeing Air Force officers being handed authority over the behavior of the Space Force who openly know absolutely nothing about Anunnaki anthropology, cosmology, or ethics. They're still at square one that says, well, we don't know if there's anybody out there or not. How stupid do they think we are? Okay, so the Space Force is being promoted and prompted into a hate Anunnaki, war mongering mentality because the military do not share information and actual knowledge about the Anunnaki culture, the tall white culture, the gray culture, the Alpha Draconi culture, the treaties in space. They don't share all of that. They keep the real important stuff secret. And then they go to war because they don't know nothing real. Can you understand why, as a grandma, this stuff bothers me? Because of the stupidity of it. Now, where did this stupidity begin? The stupidity began with the fifth dimensional problem avoidance method of the Masonic and chivalric orders that says any problem you think about grows. All reality is the same. We are all one. Okay, and the whole cosmology that goes with the all-one denial of the reality of problems. And that is the basis upon which the Iron Mountain ethos was developed between 1963 and 1967 that turned our military into a fascist dictatorship then. And it's no wonder that we've been through serial wars, because the Iron Mountain diktat caused Michael Aquino, the Satanist, he has his own Church of Set in San Francisco. He reworked the U.S. Army College's ethics in order to accept the torture prisoners. Okay, the ethos of the U.S. military has sunk to the level of fascist Germany and communist Russia and communist China. They no longer operate from the respect and decency and good intentions of the founders of this country. They are not what they say they are. They are not doing what they say they are doing. And so they can't be trusted. And so here we are. Here we are looking at professions that have all repudiated the very ethos upon which they were organized and established, who about 100 years ago junked the Constitution and its insistence on truth-telling and honesty and veracity and, yes, be tolerant but check, who have allowed the Vatican and the New World Order and the United Nations to embrace the behaviors of double dealing, deceit, which is called taqiyya, of jizya, protection racketeering, and of jihad, which is invasive conquest. And our government has been practicing those three behaviors since we were children. And that's why Islam is embraced into the New World Order, because it has the same ethos as our secret government does. Our secret government does not follow the ethos of our Constitution. Our secret government is run by Luciferians whose intention is to make sure that the galactic treaties dominate over the kingdom of God and the rule by law and the rule by truth and honesty and good intentions. Okay? And so that's where I'm brought to today. I'm finding that there is almost no professional association that is credible. They have all been turned into tools of taqiyya, jizya, and jihad by the Luciferian New World Order, namely the Masons, the Jesuits, okay, and the money guys, okay? And that's what we have to confront. So let's confront it. Because what we're confronting are methods that only always create bad outcomes. If you look at the left and you look at their methods, the Frankfurt School, Saul Alinsky, the Kalergi Plan, the Cloward-Piven Plan, okay, the protocols, all of their methods are destructive, not constructive. And they have infiltrated every profession in our nation. And we've got to clean it out. I hope that happens before I pass on. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.